Okay, let's talk about dental plans and dental rates. And I have to warn you now, I love talking about dental insurance. It kind of geeks me out a little bit. So I'm going to control myself and let's get going. So the reason I like dental plans so much is that it's such an important benefit. And so let's go ahead and just kind of nip the question in the bud. What does it cost? Now, typically, you're going to have employee only rates that run between $25 and $35 a month, and your family rate is going to be 100 to 135. Now, what should you expect when you're getting covered? And so, what you're going to typically come across, and what we usually call it, is what's called a 180/50 plan. And the 180/50 are just the percentages that the insurance company will cover for different services. So the 100 is for preventative care. That's your two checkups and your x-rays that go along with that. And you get a couple of those a year. The 80% is going to be for basic services. And so what I always describe those as are what's the easy stuff? Fillings, sealants, and those types of things. Major services, that's going to be the bigger stuff. Think things going into your mouth, crowns, dentures, bridges, and then also oral surgeries. Now, plans can also have orthodontia, and that's going to be covered at 50%. Now, every carrier is a little bit different, and not every single plan is going to be 180/50 plans. Occasionally, I'll come across plans that are maybe 150/0 plans or 80/50/50 plans. So it's not always 180/50, but typically that's what we sell all of ours at. What are the things that affect whether it's a $25 plan or a $35 plan? Let's run through a couple of those. The first thing is what's going to be the annual max for coverage? Now, usually we never sell anything under $1,000. I'm not even sure if I've ever sold anything under $1,000, but usually they're going to run between $1,000 to $2,500. A lot of the times we're at that $1,500 to $2,000 mark, but I think $1,000 plan is what I'm personally on, and that's usually enough. Now, the next thing is where is endodontics and periodontics, which is like root canals and gum treatments? Where do those fall? Are they a basic service covered at 80%, or are they a major service covered at 30%? Of course, if they're at 80%, it's going to be a little more expensive than if they're at 50%. Now, orthodontics, whether that's in the plan or out of the plan, and then what's the lifetime max on that? Typically, lifetime maxes are going to be either $1,000 or $1,500 per child. The next thing is, what is the payment structure? Is it a percentile plan or is it a MAC plan? And we'll talk about those two in the next couple of slides. And then also, if you're in a group under 100, most carriers are going to put that into their small business block. So how is the small business block doing as a whole? And then the last thing is, if you're in a larger employer, utilization. Are you having a lot of utilization in groups over 100? And that can affect the rate as well. So let's look at what a percentile plan is real fast. A percentile plan is going to be a plan that's loosely tied to a network. You can go in network, you can go out of network, but basically what they're doing is they're paying what a percentage of doctors in that area charge. So if 90% of the doctors in the area charge $100 for that service, then that's going to be what either the 180 or 50 is based off of, what 90% of the doctors in that area are charging. Now, with these plans, you can be balance billed. And so that's something important to understand. Now, they pay a percentage of what's called usual and customary rates, UCR. That's what we're doing it, or that's what we typically call it. And so what they're going to do is they're going to base that typically on what 80% of the doctors are charging and what 90% of the doctors are charging. And just realize they are not bound to any contract with the carrier. So there are no limits to what they can charge for their services. Let's contrast that to a MAC plan. A MAC plan is a plan that the acronym is for maximum allowable cost. These are going to be tied very closely to networks. And with that, there's going to be a contract between the carrier and the doctor that says they can only charge a certain amount of money for whatever service they are providing. And then the 180, 50 percentages that we talked about initially, that's what it's paid off of. So in the example I used earlier where it says it's $100 for the service, well, if the percentile plan is paying at 90th percentile and that's $100, realistically, the MAC plan with the cost controls, you may be having that same service done typically for 25 to 30% less. So MAC plans actually allow for your annual max to go a little bit further. Just to kind of wrap up, when it comes to dental plans, realize that 95% of people, literally the percentage is 95% of the people, don't ever get to $1,000. So I like doing either $1,000 or $1,500 plans. And I always suggest MAC plans. MAC plans are typically about 20% less than a percentile plan. And then I'll always put endodontics and periodontics in basic services. And then the last thing is I always like doing ortho. And the ortho is usually going to be at $1,000 and occasionally at $1,500 if you may be selling a plan that has a $2,000 or $2,500 annual max. But dental is super important. And it's one of those things I think it's a good thing to always offer alongside the major medical that you're offering. So if you have any questions about dental, or if you would like to talk about maybe some dental rates, please reach out to us. Thanks so much.